Hello, I'm the director of these no-budget, moneyless, homemade movies you are about to see. They're made around school and stuff with limited time, limited actors, and minimal consumer-level equipment. It's all about experimenting, having fun, learning, and making full use of the little that you have to work with. I've been making movies since I was around 12 years of age. Soon I'm going to share with you one of my first movies that I ever made. It's called Snix. Strangely, as inferior, as primitive, as hokey, as bad as it is, it became my loved classic and led to a long series of sequels. 6 films in total. The 6 Flix. Um, what's interesting is that each Snix movie shows improvement from the last. You hardly ever see that happen when it comes to real movies in Hollywood. I'd rather show the later Snix movies, which are superior to the old ones. The problem is that they're all meant to be seen in order. If you just watched a later episode, say the evil spirit of Snix, you wouldn't fully understand the storyline, the use of flashbacks, and all the references to the older Snix movies. Of course, they should be seen in order, but watching the entire series takes like almost 3 hours, and who's going to sit through all these hours of homemade movies? The 6 flick still has its audience defined. I categorize them as like comedy slash action slash supernatural thriller. They seem to be most popular with the little kids, but I'm not really sure. I don't know what purpose they really have, but they definitely show my improvement as a growing filmmaker. Okay, on to the movie. This movie's bad, I tell you straight out. This is the worst movie I ever made that I still actually show some people today. It's the oldest movie of mine that's still in existence, actually. And, well, one of them. And it was April 13th, 1993, and I was 12 years old. And 2 friends came over one day. We were just sort of hanging out, and we said, hey, you want to make a movie? And that's how it started. And we made up the plot as we went along. We just improvised. And now on to the first episode of Snix. And if you hang in there and you get to watch like the rest of the series, I promise you, each one gets better than the last. After that movie, I forgot all about Snix for 3 years. The videotape it was recorded on was buried in my closet with all my old movies and never thought of again until later in May of 1996. I began roaming about finding lots of my old movies. I watched many of them, and they brought back memories. And it was funny watching it 3 years later. I mean, I looked completely different, and so did Phil. One day in June of 1996, I was sitting on my bed, staring across my room at my closet door, daydreaming about movie making, when the title Snix the Return just popped into my head. Then I thought, what if I made a sequel to Snix after all these years? I hung on to the title Snix the Return and didn't change it, even though I could have come up with something better like The Resurrection of Snix or something. And I would have been much better off making it a remake using the same plot, but with much better quality, obviously. And I looked so much different, it would be too hard to tell I was actually the same character, almost. But, that was the whole point. I made the sequel just for a gag. It was just like a spoof, actually, just to make fun of the first one. I even used the same exact mask in the sequel. What I should have done was made a new one and painted the face. I could have made it look so much better, but I just wanted to stick to tradition and use the same mask. Again, I wasn't trying to make the movie any good. It was just to pay tribute, to salute the first one. The title, Snix the Return, it wasn't just the return of Snix. It was a return of me to my old stomping grounds, doing the same thing I was doing when I was 12. This video took the whole month to finish. Unlike Snix, which was made in one day, Snix the Return took like an entire month, which was 4 days, actually. But anyway, I think I've talked enough. I mean, it was only another dumb improvised movie made without a whole lot of effort, but it came out a lot better than I expected. Now more questions and ideas raced in my head than ever before. These films were just experimental, Now what if I developed some sort of script to work from and made an even better snix movie, this time trying to make it good? Then I wondered, why would I waste my time trying to make another snix sequel? But the story could be explored more. I mean, more things were revealed in the sequel, but we still never found out what was in the box, what the sock was, and Snix wasn't truly rid of. What if the mask just disappeared out of the hole? I needed just one more to finish it off so I could say I made a trilogy. I took a lot of time writing the screenplay for it. I had a huge plot in mind for the great Snix finale. It involved another possession of Snix, the revealing of what the mysterious sock really was, the decomposing body of Snix, a scene in which the mask floats in the air all by itself, and a scene where I turn into Snix without the mask and my face changes through animation. I had plenty of ideas, but I had trouble putting them all into the same story. It was like too many ingredients in the soup. They just didn't all mix. So the part where Snix's body walks would have to be a separate movie on its own. As for the possession and the mask scene, it would have to be 4 separate movies. So I had my whole series planned out. I knew how it was going to happen. And that's why it turned out to be 6 Snix flicks. Rotting corpse of Snix was a real pain. So finally, with all my actors out of the way, I just went ahead and quickly finished the next Snix movie in a matter of weeks. How? Because no one needed to be in it except me. I played as like all 3 of the characters, Jim, Zins, and Snix. I filmed the entire movie by myself and like around my own house. Occasionally I would get a family member to help with the part. Like I'd call, like, I need someone to hold the camera over here, or I need someone to pull a string. The major like breakthrough element in this movie for me is the careful editing. You might not notice, but the editing is much better here. During the previous Snix movies, I would shoot as less raw footage as possible and make most of the cuts with the camera. Like turning the camera on and off just at the right moment. If the actors would mess up or anyone would make a mistake, we just rewind it and record over it again. You're best off just recording all of your takes, all of your raw footage, then editing later between 2 VCRs, whatever you can get your hands on, whatever you have access to. I've been using 2 VCRs for a while and it's pretty crummy. This Snix movie is much quieter, much calmer, with like less action than the last one. I'm just letting you know. The whole thing takes place around my house. It's calmer, but it had like a more realistic atmosphere that you can get immersed into. Well, as you can see, Snix again is when the series starts like kicking a little more, starts getting a little better. The quality obviously is much better than that of Snix the Return. This is kind of funny. I accidentally started Rotting Corpse of Snix on April 13th of 1997, 4 days from the date that the original was made. Purely accidental. Get this. Snix took 1 day to make. Snix the Return took a whole month to make. Snix again took 2 months to make. Rotting Corpse of Snix took 10 months to make. Sit back and enjoy The Rotting Corpse of Snix. The finale, are you ready? The 6th and final Snix movie. This is the best one, I think. I don't really have much to say about it other than I used a lot of references in this movie to the original, trying to tie the last Snix movie with the first one. And I put every thought into it, pouring out ideas to make it like the perfect ending for Snix.